Hello everyone, today is the day you've all been waiting for. We are finally releasing the results of the Pokemon Yellow Randomizer community race event I've hosted. We've started the race August 27th and ended it on September 2nd. We even made a Discord server for the race, and I was not expecting to see so many amazing people participate. Not everyone in the server submitted a run, but even if they didn't, they were all still discussing strategies with other players, and I loved seeing everyone work together. Before we get into everyone's runs and submissions, we need to go over the rules that everyone had to play by. I sent out a packaged version of my overlay to all the participants, so everyone will use the same overlay that I used for the Pokemon Yellow runs. The basic rules everybody had to play by was that they could only use their starter in battle, no items in battle, no TM32 double team until level 100, and the run ends upon defeating the Pokemon champion. But also, you may be asking, what is being randomized? Glad you asked. Not only are the starter Pokemon randomized, but all the trainers have random Pokemon, the wild Pokemon are random, which will make finding an HM user more difficult, or easier depending on your luck. The gift Charmander and Squirtle are randomized, and even items on the ground are shuffled. The reason I say shuffled and not randomized is because if the items are shuffled, the amount of items in the game and the quantity of each will remain the same. So there will always be the same number of PP-ups, elixirs, and rare candies as vanilla. The TMs, though, are actually shuffled with each other, so the Mount Moon TM for Water Gun could be Thunder or Teleport or something. TMs that are given to you by an NPC, like Psychic or anything from a gym leader, are not randomized, since the randomizer program we were using didn't support that. This will also be a different kind of video from the other race videos you may have seen. I didn't ask our participants to just submit the fastest time, but all of their times. I have a total of 53 unique runs that will be shown off in today's video. But to get this started, we'll cover one of my runs just so you can see what the randomizers will look like, who can be expected to prove a challenge, and what kind of final times we can expect. So let's get straight into it. The run we'll be looking at first is my randomized run with the starter Pokemon Poliwrath. Poliwrath has great stats to start off a run with, and a great moveset too. We start with Hypnosis, Water Gun, and Body Slam, so amazing coverage all around. The best Pokemon to use for these randomizers are the ones that get good moves to start with, so they won't have to rely on randomized TM locations to get good moves, such as Swords Dance, Earthquake, Body Slam, or Double Edge. Also, something I forgot to discuss is that the item in the PC is randomized, so it can literally be anything, a candy, vitamin, potion, repel, and much more. I've never seen them be TM, so I guess it can't be that, but it can be anything else. As we fight the first rival battle, he starts off with a Wartortle. Another rule we have in the randomizer program is that the rival will carry the starter throughout the whole run, so by the time we get to Rival 5, Rival 6, and the champion, his ace will be a Blastoise. After I deliver Professor Oak's parcel, I go back down to round 1 to catch some HM users. I saw a Doduo in the grass for Fly that I want, and while looking for it I found a Paris. This will be used for Cut and Dig. In the randomizer runs, it really helps to know what HMs are learned by which Pokemon. I also couldn't find the Doduo, so I decided to go north to Viridian Forest where I found a Charizard. You may think, this Pokemon can't learn Fly in Gen 1, but that is only in Red and Blue. In Yellow they gave it Fly, so I caught it. Since Poliwrath is in the medium-slow leveling group, I don't do optional training and I just go straight to the mandatory Bug Catcher. He luckily just has a level 10 Tangela. He may have been easy today, but he may not be easy next time. Now that the forest is behind us, I can go and challenge the gym leader Brock. He leads with a Cloyster, which is very defensive and knows the annoying Clamp. Then afterwards, Brock's ace is an Alakazam. This Pokemon and Gyarados are the reason I decided to do this randomizer race in Yellow version. Another reason is because more of the races that have been hosted by Scott were in Yellow, so I figured if I stuck to Yellow as well, I could get some of his racers. But anyway, the main reason is that in Red and Blue, Gyarados and Alakazam start off with very OP movesets like Dragon Rage and Hydro Pump or Confusion. So yeah, I felt like the whole run would have just centralized around getting those two for starters. So us starting in Yellow really nerfs their movesets. As we go through the Route 3 trainers, so far the main trainers for any randomized run you see in this video today that other runners will not need to take lightly are Brock, the first couple of Route 3 trainers, since with a randomizer, the bug catcher on Route 3 who normally has like 2 Caterpie and a Weedle can actually be more difficult than Brock depending on what his team composes of. Once all those trainers are done through, you get a nice little breather in Mount Moon. You can catch an HM user if you haven't yet, check out some TMs, or just get some normal items if you're looking for stuff like candies and elixirs. And the next mandatory fight in here is the Fossil Super Nerd and Jesse and James. They each have 3 Pokemon, and I think you see where this is going. In the randomizer, it is not the trainers themselves that are hard, it's the number of Pokemon they have, and also the level. The more Pokemon they have, the more bad they could be. Which is why early on, you don't want to fight trainers that have a lot of Pokemon, like that one bug catcher with 4 Pokemon on Route 3. He easily could have 2 fully evolved Pokemon and be a challenge. But it can be really good experience, so it's up to you whether you want to take the risk or not. Next up in our randomized playthrough is Cerulean City. Players will have 2 options once they get here, Rival 2 or Misty. Rival 2 is usually harder than Misty due to him having more Pokemon, so usually it's worth fighting Misty first, which is what I do next. Misty leads off with Machamp, which has no good moves to frighten Poliwrath, and certainly Growlithe doesn't, so yeah. Rival 2 is next. I now have Bubble Beam on my Learn set since Misty still gives us the TM for Bubble Beam. He starts off with Scyther, which goes down in 2 hits, then he follows with Krabby, Rhydon, and then Wartortle, so fortunately Poliwrath is not struggling yet. The Nugget Bridge and Route 25 towards Bill's house, as Gym Leader Matt would say, is the greatest cluster of mandatory trainer battles in the game. Plus the XP yields are even better than before, since that one guy who has a Caterpie may lead with a Rhydon, which will give way more XP. Once Bill is finished, I can go back to Cerulean City and make my way south to Vermilion City, where I go to the Pokemart to buy some potions and repels, and then go on the SS Anne. There are 2 more TMs on the boat, but since we already have great moves, I see no need to check them, and I go straight to Rival 3. He leads off with a Growlithe, which is an obvious one-shot with Bubble Beam. The next Pokemon, Raichu, is actually threatening, and it did survive a Bubble Beam, but luckily Thundershock did very little damage, and I was able to finish off Rival 3 in due time. In front of the gym, I teach Cut to Paris and go straight to Surge. The trash can puzzle will be skipped for all participants, and since this is yellow version, Surge only has 1 Pokemon, and today his 1 Pokemon was a Goldeen, which is quite hilarious. Surge is going to get dunked on quite heavily in this video. The next step for this run is to go through Route 9 and Rock Tunnel and head towards Celadon City. There is a lot of trainers in this area of the game, so the potential for lots of XP is quite high, just like Nugget Bridge. Once we arrive in Celadon City, I go straight to the Celadon department store to buy some super repels, get a Pokédoll to skip the Marowak, which will be allowed in the community race, and then I get the HM for Fly and go to Pokemon Tower to fight Rival 4. He leads off with Clefable, which is one of the worst Pokemon to face off in a randomizer, since no matter what level you face it at, it has the moves Sing, Minimize, and Metronome to create some quite trolly results. You better hope not to see this in the champion fight or something. Same thing with Wigglytuff, except it has Sing and Double Slap. Also, since my overlay can show you what the Marowak Ghost is, it'll be funny seeing if it can be a legendary, since in our randomizer software, we banned the trainers and wild Pokemon from having legendaries, but the one exception are static spawns, like the Marowak, the gift Pokemon, and the Snorlaxes. With the Flute obtained, Erica is gym number 4. I would say she was easy, but unfortunately she had an Ace Victory Bell, which has Sleep Powder and Razor Leaf, and due to her good AI, Victory Bell can be quite terrifying. But that is what Hypnosis is for emergencies such as this one, and then with Victory Bell put to sleep, I can take it out with Ice Beam, which I got from the Celadon department store. With Erica defeated, the world is our cloister. We can either go to Koga or Rival 5. And with the yellow Koga being in the high 40s to level 50, while Rival 5 is level 35 to 40, I go straight to Saffron City first. Let's go fight Rival 5. He leads with Pinsir, which is not too bad. Next up is Venusaur, which is a one-shot with Ice Beam. Persian is quite easy. Charizard is easy. And for Blastoise, I spam Body Slam. I probably should have put it to sleep first, and I get my first reset here. I get another reset here, so I just decide to go through Cycling Road and head down to Fuchsia City Safari Zone. Honestly, it's not like I did any training on the way. I guess I just wanted a change of scenery. Not only that though, at the very end I get the HM for Surf, which I will teach to Poliwrath right away. This will definitely help the Rival 5 battle. Before trying again though, to be safe, I do all the training in the fighting dojo. This place is quite great experience since every trainer is level 30 and above. Why does this matter? Another rule in place for the randomized trainer battles is that any Pokemon that is level 30 and higher will be fully evolved. So no, we will not be facing Lorelei leading off with a Metapod. It will instead be a Butterfree to make these runs more challenging. Okay, now let's check out Rival 5. We'll skip to Blastoise since he was the actual MVP here. I arrive at 6 HP since the Venusaur did so much damage with Razor Leaf. And then on the next attempt, 4 resets into the run, I get back to the Blastoise at 14 HP, I land Hypnosis, crit Body Slam, Blastoise wakes up, I Body Slam again, it paralyzes, and it didn't move. Man, that was a brutal Rival 5. Fast Pokemon like Persian will definitely be a challenge to remember. Giovanni though was just a piece of cake, so let's just skip him and go straight to the gym leader rush spree. I just have Koga, Sabrina, and Blaine to defeat before moving on to the final gym leader. The first of the 3 I take on is Sabrina while I'm here. I skip Mimic since I didn't have a Pokédoll. Sabrina has 3 level 50 Pokemon, and today it is a Nidoqueen, Machamp, and a Butterfree. So honestly, not too scary of a team. Although if I kept hitting myself in confusion on Butterfree, I definitely could have lost. Koga is next. He has a level 44, 46, 48, and a level 50. He leads with Kangaskhan, followed by another Venusaur, a Beedrill, followed by Ninetales, so only 1 Grass-type Pokemon today. And I win on the first try. I get Strength from the Safari Warden, I skip the Boulder Candy that may have been a Boulder Super Potion for all I know. And now is the time for a swim down to Cinnabar Island to take on the 7th gym leader, Blaine. He has a level 48, 50, and 54. The final 3 gym leaders will definitely be hard for our contenders today. At least one of them will be. I do Blaine's gym trainers first to get a cuckful of extra levels to prepare for the end game. Blaine leads off with Tentacruel, which has a pretty bad moveset at this point, a Magmar, and followed by a Machamp. You know, I wish Blaine in Yellow version used Magmar and Surge had Electabuzz. That'd be so cool. In Giovanni's gym, his gym is the only gym in the game where there is a random item in here. I checked it out and it is an elixir. I'll save this for the league, and that is something our contenders must keep in mind. Check enough items so you have enough PP items for the league. Anyway, Giovanni leads with Parasect, which puts me to sleep with Spore due to good AI. Luckily, I wake up pretty quickly. Kabutops has a bad moveset, Butterfree gets frozen, Seadra just loves to tank hits, and Giovanni finishes things off with Marowak, as I get all 8 badges. Rival 6 time. Arbok starts off the fight. Luckily, I take it out with 1 hit because Arbok has the paralyzing move Glare. Next Pokemon is Machamp, which has never been an issue in this run. You know, I can learn the TM for Psychic, but I skipped it because I felt Water, Ice, and Normal would be enough coverage. Plus, I want the emergency move Hypnosis. Starmie only has Tackle and Water Gun, Exeggutor has Stomp and Barrage, and then his Venusaur comes out and completely destroys Poliwrath with Razor Leaf. On attempt number 3, when I get back to the Venusaur, which has been the worst Pokemon to deal with in this randomizer so far, I used Ice Beam on it, and instead of critting me with Razor Leaf, it crits me with Vine Whip. Seriously? On attempt number 4, I get a Clutch Freeze on Venusaur, and that is how I'm able to win. Man, I am not looking forward to the champion fight. But before we worry about that, at least let's get a break by solving the Victory Road puzzle. If you want to do training in here, you could, but I don't really see that as necessary with Poliwrath, since I still have rare candies I never used yet. When I get out of Victory Road, I arrive at the Pokemon League, heal at the center, buy some full restores, and take on the final 5 trainers. Let's do this shit. Lorelei starts off with Rapidash. 1 Surf takes it out. Aerodactyl suffers the same fate. Sadly, there is a Clefable on our team and it is quite tanky, but I knock it out before it puts me to sleep. but then her Venusaur puts me to sleep and uses 2 Razor Leafs for the knockout. I can't get a break from these things, can I? On the very next try, I Ice Beam the Venusaur, it uses Razor Leaf, I survive, take it out, and her final Pokemon Nidoking is a one-shot with Surf. Next off is Bruno. You may think there's a hiker in here, but the randomizer software has a little feature. It replaces the hiker with Bruno, so yeah. Anyway, he starts off with his own Poliwrath. Man, can you imagine if this guy in Vanilla had a Poliwrath? He'd be so much harder. Anyway, when I KO Poliwrath, Parasect is next. But since Bruno has random AI, it will not go for Spore like Giovanni did, and Aerodactyl after it goes down. But then afterwards, his Gyarados completely destroys me with Hyper Beam. Ouch. I get another reset since his Poliwrath decided to paralyze me with Body Slam, and I just noped right out of that attempt. On attempt number 3, I use Ice Beam on Gyarados, it uses Hyper Beam, but I live, it has to recharge, I use Body Slam, it paralyzes, and I am able to win. Man, that was difficult. And oh yeah, the Beedrill right afterwards is not a problem. Agatha is next, and she leads with Blastoise, which has caused issues before, but not today. Electabuzz switches into Pidgeot just to stall the fight as long as is possible, and since half of her team was weak to Ice, she was actually pretty easy. Lance has Licky Tongue, which only has Slam as an attacking move at this point. Muck wasn't too bad, even though it has Minimize. Dragonite can't handle the Ice, and his last Pokemon Tentacruel spams Barrier while I try to use Body Slam, being quite annoying. But in due time, I am able to move on to the champion. He leads off with Golbat. Golbat will be a problem for any Pokemon that have to rely on moves like Swords Dance, since Haze will erase all of your stat boosts, even your normal ones. Poliwrath though is all brute strength, so that won't be an issue. I think the champion's good AI is only making him use Wing Attack anyway. Next up is Ditto. It goes down to 1 Surf. Vileplume gets off a massive Petal Dance before going down. Pidgeot survives an Ice Beam. Mirror moves Ice Beam, luckily not freezing me, and then the Pidgeot and the Onix go down. Now for Blastoise. I miss Hypnosis, it charges a Skull Bash, I miss Hypnosis again, it hits for little damage fortunately, I get hit with Hypnosis on the 3rd try, and hopefully I can knock down in time with Body Slam before it wakes up. I get 2 of them before Blastoise wakes up, I use Hypnosis again, it actually works, so I get more time for Body Slam, which is enough time to finish off the fight. And Poliwrath clocks in with a time of 44 minutes and 7 seconds, with 10 resets at level 62, with a game time of 2 hours, 36 minutes, and 6 seconds. That was not a bad run, although the true MVP for the enemy team was definitely Venusaur and other bulky water types like Tentacruel and Blastoise. However though, this was just one run. We still have many other runs to talk about. I won't do it in this format since we'd be here for 30 hours. I will be talking in a style similar to my Versus videos from December, but only the first place run of each contender will have their runs be talked about so we can see who's ahead, who struggles where, and at the very end, we'll talk about some interesting stats I kept track of while making notes for this video, which have taken me so long to make. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, let's introduce the contenders for this race. Besides myself, we also have some familiar faces, such as Steve M Plays, who I've played the Pokemon Blue key item randomizers with, and now we'll be doing Pokemon Blue backport runs, as well as Game Dev Made Easy, a fellow friend of the channel who helps with the code aspects of things, mostly for Steve. Plus, we've done races before. Now for the new faces. Their YouTube channels or any other social media will be in the description if they provided it to me. Our contenders are Adair, Austin, Battelle the Assistant, Cody, Ike the Killer, John Calibro, Boss KO, Kangaskhan, MT Birius, Mystic Hobo, NBV3, Otto, Red Riosity, Refined Hornet, Wessel Sprouts, and Zelda Fan. I wish you all the greatest of luck. Let's talk about what runs they've submitted, followed by their first place run that will be discussed. Adair only submitted 1 run, so he'll be playing the game with Slowpoke, which will be allowed to evolve into Slowbro. Austin will be playing with Hypno, Battelle the Assistant will be using Tentacruel, Cody played with both Dewgong and Haunter, but today we'll go over his Dewgong run. Game Dev Made Easy played Mr. Mime, Charizard, and Kingler. We'll go over his Mr. Mime playthrough. Ike the Killer will be playing Victory Bell. John Calibro submitted a lot of runs. He has done runs with Machoke, Nidoking, Mr. Mime, Raichu, Jolteon, Vaporeon, Flareon, and Persian. His best run was with Machoke, so we'll discuss that one. Kangaskhan, despite the name, has not used Kangaskhan, but instead used Slowbro and Snorlax. They were both 1 second apart from their final times, but Slowbro was barely better. Tiberius used Charizard, Haunter, Poliwrath, and Hypno. We'll go over Charizard. Mystic Hobo played with Hitmonlee, along with another surprise Pokemon, which we'll get into later. You're gonna want to see it. NBV3 used Hypno, Jinx, Tentacruel, and Pikachu. His Hypno run will be in the race video today. Otto played with Gengar, Mr. Mime, Victory Bell, and Dodrio. He'll race with Gengar. Red Riosity submitted Gengar, Hypno, Victory Bell, Gengar again, and Poliwrath. His best time was with Gengar, so we're going to do that Gengar run. 2 Gengars in a row, I see. Refined Hornet will be playing Poliwrath. I already showed you my Poliwrath run, but I also did a Gengar run. We'll go over that one too. Steve M Plays has played with Gengar, Nidoqueen, another Gengar, Victory Bell, Dewgong, and Blastoise. His best time was with Gengar. Wessel Sprouts played with Hypno and Poliwrath. Hypno was the best one. Finally, Zelda fans submitted Nidorina, Nidoran Male, and Lapras. Today, we'll get to show off Nidorina. Decent selection of Pokemon plus a bunch of Gengars. But let's see who can beat randomized Pokemon Yellow the fastest. Let's get into the race. Adair's rival will be using Grimer today, which only starts off with Pound and Disable, and Slowpoke starts off with Confusion, so the fight isn't too difficult today. After delivering the Professor Oak's parcel, he decides to fight Rival 1A for extra experience. He will still have his Grimer, but does lead with Seal, so the Seal sadly knocks him out with Headbutt and he immediately blacks out. Also, for this video, blackouts do not count as resets. He comes back to the fight at level 10 and barely squeaks out a victory against the Seal and then one-shots the Grimer. In Viridian Forest, since Slowpoke is a very weak Pokemon to start a run with, he trains against the bug catchers and other trainers in the forest. Trainers in Pokemon games up until Gen 7 give 50% more XP than the wild battles. After all that, the mandatory bug catcher finishes things off with Magikarp. How incredible. After arriving in Pewter City to do some shopping, he takes on Brock. Brock's first Pokemon is a Rattata, quite easy, but then his ace Victory Bell has something to say about that. After defeating the Light Years Junior trainer, he is now level 15. Hopefully this will lead to a win. Sadly, nope. Victory Bell's Razor Leaf is just too strong. Fortunately though, Brock in this game doesn't have good AI, so he uses moves randomly. And on this battle, it never once used Razor Leaf, so Adair finishes off Brock with a time of 8 minutes and 5 seconds. Not the best time ever, but as long as he finishes in the top half of Brock splits, he will stay in the race. Let's move on to Austin's Hypno run. For Hypno, the rival is using Electabuzz, which doesn't get threatening moves until a higher level with Thunder Punch and Thunder, so nothing to worry about right now. Hypno starts off with Confusion and Pound for great offensive coverage, plus later it can get Headbutt and Meditate. Hypno, in my opinion, is the best Pokemon for doing a runs with TM's banned, due to its great level up learn set, which does include Psychic. Austin skips the optional rival battle, but does do some bug catchers in Viridian Forest to not fall too far behind on levels. The mandatory bug catcher at the end has a level 10 Pidgeot, which does have Sand Attack, but it never once lands the move, so that's great to see. Now on to Brock's gym. Austin quickly takes out the Light Years Junior trainer with easy Pokemon, and then Brock leads off with Doug Trio, which starts off with the powerful move Dig. But once it's defeated, Brock's ace is Weepin' Bell, a downgrade from Adair's Victory Bell earlier, and with it down, Austin gets a Brock split of 4 minutes and 17 seconds. That is a great split. We see here what an optimal Brock split looks like. Next up is Battelle the Assistant with her Tentacruel run. I also do want to mention that Battelle does play by the rule of using no vitamins of any kind. This is something she does herself, so people are allowed to use them in my runs. She also wanted the extra challenge, I guess. Her rival leads with Caterpie, so it'll evolve into a healthy, Psybeam, supersonic spamming Butterfree. Another interesting thing she does is she nicknames her HM users Cut, Fly, etc. I find that kind of interesting as a way to not lose your HM users. I'll keep a note of that. Anyway, in Viridian Forest, she trains on wild Pokemon and the bug catchers too, since Acid is not a great move to start the game with, and she does get some blackouts and resets in the process of training. At the end of it, she fights the mandatory bug catcher at level 12, who does have a Cubone which resists Acid, and does have Bone Club, but she safely gets out of the forest. And then she defeats the Light Years Junior trainer and takes on the gym leader. Brock's lead is a level 10 Graveler, which is a huge upgrade from Geodude. The main solution for this fight is just Supersonic then spam Wrap for the most consistent damage possible. His ace though is a much easier Jigglypuff, and Battelle gets her Brock split with a large time of 19 minutes and 4 seconds. All the training in Viridian Forest causing resets and blackouts certainly did not help her time. I'm not too sure if she'll continue in this video, but I'm still happy everyone submitted times. Thank you everyone, but we still have more people to go through. Let's move on to Cody and his Dewgong run. For some reason the type order doesn't load properly in his footage. He must have forgotten to hit the refresh button on OBS, so we'll just have to deal with it, not a big deal. At least the stats show up. Dewgong has a great starting moveset of Headbutt and Aurora Beam, which is good enough to deal with the Haunter the rival will be using this run. A lot of the Pokemon that start off with only normal type moves will struggle with ghost type Pokemon. In fact, I told my racers that if they start off with only normal type moves and the mandatory bug catcher or Brock had a Gengar or something, don't even bother with the rest of the run, just start over. Because after Brock, you can get Bide, which can hit ghost types. Eevee is a great example of such normal types, which is what the bug catcher has, but let's also see what Brock has. He leads with Gloom, which is weak to Aurora Beam, and the Vulpix afterward is only neutral to Ice move, so it's a one-shot. And Cody's Brock split is 6 minutes and 57 seconds. Game Dev Made Easy starts off with Mr. Mime, which like Hypno, also starts off with Confusion. It also gets Barrier 2 for badge boosting later. The rival starts off with Golduck, which fun fact gets Confusion by level up, but not the TM for Psychic. Another fun fact, the bug catcher also had a Golduck. That's quite a coincidence if I've ever seen one. Let's see if Brock has a Golduck too. Brock leads off with Electrode, that's not it, although Sonic Boom is quite scary due to its flat 20 damage. And the next Pokemon is a Caterpie. Darn, no triples. Oh well, a time of 5:28 is still quite nice. Ike the Killer is next to hit the scene. Back during the Scott's Thoughts, Smeargle, and Parasect race, he submitted very competitive times. The rival starts off with Primeape as the starter, which does get the guaranteed crit with Karate Chop. Victreebel also gets a guaranteed crit with Razor Leaf due to its great speed stat. With Victreebel, the bug catchers in the forest, including the mandatory one with Kangaskhan, was a piece of cake, and also due to the medium slow XP group, it is able to get to level 16 for Brock. Brock leads off with Electrode again. That won't stop Victreebel, and neither will Arbok, although Wrap spamming will slow it down. But a Brock split of 5:17 is amazing. I know this may seem repetitive with all the Brock splits, but once Brock is finished, half the racers will be booted from the race. But we will need to go through everyone's runs. They all deserve recognition for participating in today's video. John Calibro, a fellow YouTube member and Patreon supporter, is starting the game off with Machoke, not a fully evolved Pokemon, but it will evolve at level 37 since we have the Turn Impossible Evos turned off. So we will see Machamp in today's video. It'll evolve at level 37. It's been a while, but John does face the optional rival. He just has a Charizard along with the starter Jigglypuff. Luckily, Charizard doesn't get a flying type move by level up, not even wing attack, so it's not even a problem. The mandatory bug catcher Nidorino is certainly not a problem, and hopefully neither will Brock. Although a Hypno lead does look threatening, John and his Machoke just shrug it off and defeat both it and Kakuna, and get a Brock split of 435. I also did mention that Boss KO did a run, but sadly his PC had technical difficulties while recording, and the gameplay was not at 4x speed, and the recording was in blurry quality. I did provide a screenshot of the run proving he did do it. Even though problems that weren't any fault of his run won't be competitive. I'm still happy you participated. Thank you, Boss KO, for being a part of the run despite the problems you've had. Hopefully the problems can get fixed soon. Maybe you can participate in the next race. You never know. Our next contender is Kangaskhan with his Slowbro, already an advantage over Adair in his Slowpoke. The rival had a Poliwag to start off the run, so this will be a terrifyingly annoying Poliwrath for later fights. For now though, having Confusion and Headbutt is honestly better than starting moveset than Hypno, which instead of Headbutt is Pound. But Disable is quite useless though. But Confusion and Headbutt is enough to take out all the bug catchers in Viridian Forest, while picking up a rare candy along the way. And the final trainer, the mandatory bug catcher, has a Drowsy, so very easy to finish off. Now for Brock. He leads off with Gloom for an easy one-shot, and his ace is Golduck. Dang it, why couldn't that have been during Game Dev's run? It doesn't matter though, Golduck just goes down and a Brock split of 526 happens. Tiberius is another contender. He is also a content creator, so if you want to spread love to other small channels, check him out. Quite great content. His run today will be Charizard. Charizard gets a good starting set against the rival's Fearow of Ember and Scratch to deal good damage. Although the Forest, occasional training is done with Charizard to keep up with the level curve. I will say though, the mandatory bug catcher is actually quite hard with Jolteon. Tiberius actually had a loss on him due to it having Thunder Shock, but luckily he wins on the second try. Nice to see the bug catcher being hard today. Will Brock be harder though? A lead of Exeggutor weak to Ember and a Pinsir weak to Fire? Yeah, I don't think so. Tiberius gets the fastest Brock split so far of 3 minutes and 57 seconds. Amazing job, Tiberius. Our next contender is Mystic Hobo. We're not talking about his special run yet, just his Hitmonlee run. Also, his timer design is not the right design for the overlay, but it's fine, just roll with it. Hitmonlee is probably the best fighting type behind Machamp, starting off with Double Kick and Meditate. Plus the rival having Snorlax is just a recipe for victory. I say Hitmonlee isn't as good as Machamp is because Machamp has better special to survive hits, while Hitmonlee has 35 special, so this thing better be careful of special moves like Ember and Thundershock. With Snorlax on the rival's team, the optional rival is a no-brainer. Hope the first Pokemon isn't a Hypno or something, and just defeat the Snorlax with Double Kick. At the mandatory bug catcher with the other ones defeated, the Vaporeon goes down in quick fashion to Double Kick. The Junior Light Years trainer's final Pokemon Tentacruel does take its time since the poison type resists fighting, so this is adding more time to the run, but that's not the end of the world. With him down, Brock is up next, and his lead is Paris, and the bug type does resist fighting, so this will take a few hits, but come on, what's this thing gonna do? Use Scratch? Oh wait, it will. Anyway, the Kangaskhan right afterwards is very easy, and Mystic Hobo gets a split of 6 minutes and 2 seconds. NBV3 is our next contender, and he is playing with Hypno today. No need to talk about the moveset again since Austin earlier already played it. Let's just cut to the chase. The rival has Staryu, NBV3 does the Viridian Forest like most runs do, the mandatory bug catcher has a Bulbasaur weak to Confusion, Brock leads with a Venusaur that meets the same fate, and Squirtle never stood a chance, and a Brock split of 451 is accomplished. Otto is up next. If you're from Scott's channel, Otto is one of Scott's helpers, mostly known for developing the RBY XP router that Scott uses, so he's a smart guy who shouldn't be messed with either. Plus, he has Gengar. One reason that a lot of our contenders' best times were with a Gengar is because half the Pokemon in the game, their starting movesets are all normal type moves, which Gengar is immune to. Plus, Nightshade hits every Pokemon in this game, even normal types. This was fixed in Gen 2. The rival has Golduck today, so Golduck is definitely going to find a way to pop up in a lot of different runs. One thing Otto does do differently is that he does not do the optional bug catchers. Why train if you can't get hit, am I right? The bug catcher had a Machop which doesn't have a move that can hit Gengar. So let's go straight to Brock. He leads with Magmar which can, but Gengar has a high special. Primeape right afterwards cannot hit Gengar, and Otto gets a split time of 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Things are getting competitive now. See why Gengar is OP? No, you don't? Well, guess what? Red Riosity's best time was with Gengar too. Let's see how this will differ from Otto's run. The rival has Golbat, which does have Leech Life for neutral damage, but nothing that isn't grass and poison will be weak to a Leech Life. Plus, the bug catcher does have Drowsy, which is a psychic type, but it doesn't start with a damaging move that can hit Gengar, so no threats here. Brock leads off with Gloom and ends with Farfetch, So even though they can both hit Gengar, nothing can prove a threat right now. So this Gengar run gets a split time of 3:55, so 10 seconds slower than Otto's. But that just shows you don't underestimate Otto, but it's still early on. We're almost done with the Brock splits too. Just 5 more contenders and we can give some racers the boot. Refined Hornet is racing with Poliwrath today. The rival has a Zapdos. You know when I said trainers can't have legendaries? The starter Pokemon can still be a legendary for the rival to use. I don't allow my racers to use a legendary or Mew because that would be unfair. Everyone would just use Mewtwo. This should make things interesting for Hornet today. After the training is done in Viridian Forest and Poliwrath wraps things off by defeating the Bugcatcher's Fearow, Hornet takes out the Light Years Jr. trainer and then defeats Brock's Primeape and Aerodactyl and gets a time of 4:51. Now it's my turn again. This was my best run with Gengar. The Poliwrath run before was my worst time, just to show you what to expect. My rival Steve has Farfetch, so even though it can land Sand Attack and I almost lose, I'm still able to progress with the run. I can still continue, but being behind on that much XP would not have been fun at all. The mandatory Bugcatcher's Raichu actually paralyzed me and put me in low health, so I did almost lose this run not once, but twice. Fortunately though, Brock only had Zubat and a Dragonair, way easier, and I can get my split of 4:30. Now is my rival on YouTube, Steve M Plays. Go sub to him if you haven't yet. His rival battle has him facing Meowth, which only learns normal moves by level up, so it will never be a threat this whole run. Which is why he also takes on rival 1A for the very quick, very easy experience points. I know Steve, he never does this fight in Randomizer, so he must be planning something. The Bugcatcher just has a Pikachu, so I guess we just caught Ash going through the woods. Hopefully Steve crushed his dreams of being a Pokemon master. With his hopes and dreams faded away, Steve can catch some HM users in the grass and goes on to beat Brock. Brock leads with Drowsy, which can't damage Gengar, and Metapod definitely cannot, and after spamming Lick instead of Nightshade for some reason, Steve gets a Brock time of 4:51. Now, second to last, we've got Wesselsprouts using Hypno. Arbok is the rival's starter Pokemon today, so no struggle with Hypno today. The Bugcatcher today has Hypno's younger brother Drowsy, so now it's a Hypnosis versus Hypnosis match, and Wesselsprouts sadly loses to the Drowsy. Note to self, don't go easy on your younger siblings. They will actually get good and beat you when you try your best. On Brock, the Nidoking lead tries to do a lot of damage in preparation for the Charizard coming out, but there is nothing Brock can do, and Hypno beat Brock with a split time of 9:37. Alright, our final contender is Zeldafan with Nidorina. Against the rival's Voltorb, Nidorina has Scratch and Tackle to do damage, but Scratch is better in every way compared to Tackle, in terms of base power and accuracy, so Scratch it is for the win. On the mandatory Bugcatcher, to finish off the training in Viridian Forest, he has a Starmie, plus Nidorina has Double Kick by level up. This was only in yellow, in red and blue it was at a much later level. After the forest is, for this video, behind us for good, Brock can get destroyed yet again, and after the Light Years trainer of course, Brock leads with Charizard, which goes down to 3 scratches, and Magmar goes down to Double Kick. Zeldafan denies Poison Sting, and gets a Brock split of 6 minutes and 24 seconds. Comparing all of our competitors' Brock splits, Otto is in the lead with a 3:45 split, followed by Red Riosity, M. Tiberius, Austin, myself, John Calibro, NBV3, Refined Hornet, Steve M Plays, and Ike the Killer. Everyone else with a Brock split above 520 just doesn't have a chance of being competitive, so for shortening this video's theoretical length if I kept everyone in, this will be the last we'll see of Kangaskhan, Game Dev Made Easy, Mystic Hobo, for now at least, Zeldafan, Cody, Adair, Wesselsprouts, and Patel the Assistant. Thank you everyone for being a part in this race. Now let's go over to the next section of the game. Our next split will be going through Route 3, Mount Moon, Rival 2, Misty, and then we'll take a look at our contenders again at Lieutenant Surge. So going in alphabetical order, let's head on over to Austin's run. The trainers on Route 3 prove to be no struggle for Hypno as it gets stronger. The Magikarp Salesman gives a Parasect, which is a great HM user for cut and dig. I may not go over every HM user in every run, but at the end of the video, I'll show you all the spreadsheet of all the HM users used and even who the most common ones were. Mount Moon, especially the Super Nerd and Jesse and James, were nothing but free XP for Austin. And upon arriving in Cerulean City, Austin gets the option of Rival 2 or Misty, and he does do Rival 2. He leads with Weepinbell, then Vileplume, Parasect, and the Electabuzz from before. Next up is the Nugget Bridge, which is nothing but free XP for every Pokemon in this race. It also helps us with the randomization. Instead of a Caterpie, it could be a Raticate or something for even more XP. For everyone else after Hypno, I'll only go over this place if something notable happens. At the end, Bill gives Austin the SS ticket, he gets the TM for Dig, teaches it to Parasect for Dig usage, and skips Misty and goes through to Saffron City. How did he do this? This run had the fresh water in the PC, which allows him to skip all of Rock Tunnel. This is a very rare event. You cannot find a freshwater on the ground in the overworld, so the PC is the only way to get it outside of a vending machine. This lets you skip Rock Tunnel as I've stated, but it does skip training too, which may be a double-edged sword. But it does grant early access to Psychic to make Rival 3 on the SS Sand a complete joke. Afterwards, he catches a Fly user and digs back to Cerulean, and since you cannot beat Surge before Misty, I sure wish you can in some runs. Once he's back at Misty, he has to take her on. She leads with Dodrio, it goes down to a crit Psychic, Venusaur dies to Confusion, and Austin gets a split of 13 minutes and 48 seconds. I know this isn't Surge, but in case of skipping Misty and doing SS Sand first, we'll just count this as the split time, so let's see how our other contenders do. Next up, we have Ike the Killer and his Victory Bell. With great moves like Razor Leaf and Acid, plus an emergency Sleep Powder and Wrap, almost nothing can terrify Victory Bell, which remains true through Route 3 and through Mount Moon, and Ike even did extra training in here too. Ike does do Misty over Rival 2 first. She leads with a Rattata for an easy one-shot, and Pidgey doesn't stand a chance either. She must have had a vacation on Route 1 or something. Okay, Rival time. Mr. Mime is a one-shot, Exeggutor is a one-shot, Fearow is a two-shot, and Primeape is a one-shot. There we go, hope that satisfies people. Victory Bell is a beast. No trainers were hard towards Bill, but the TM that normally has Seismic Toss has Swords Dance. This will fully complete Victory Bell's offensive capabilities. Just wait until he finds Body Slam somewhere. Oh man. With Bill rescued and Dig obtained, Ike goes down to Vermilion City and goes on the SS Sand to get cut. Although the Rival does try to slightly inconvenience Ike, but I wonder if the Rival will ever learn his lesson. I don't know really. With the SS Sand gone, he teaches Cut to Kingler and defeats Surge and his Blastoise. Okay, while scary, that certainly wasn't scary for Victory Bell specifically, and Ike gets a split time of 15 minutes and 25 seconds. As John Calibro and Machoke seek destruction on Route 3, you may notice he now has Bide taught to his Machoke. This is because Machoke has no way to hit a Ghost type right now, so just in case one shows up, he has to rely on using Bide, which is just an awful move. I'll show it off once it shows up though. When John gets into Mount Moon, he finds no ghosts hiding in here, so things are starting off very smoothly right now, especially going to fight Misty over Rival 2. She starts things off with Rapidash. Okay, not too bad, although Tail Whip isn't good. And then her second Pokemon is Hitmonchan, which is just an awful Pokemon to start with. With Bill rescued, since Rival 2 was so easy, I won't even discuss him. And then with Dig obtained, he teaches Dig over Bide. So now he'll have a move to hit Ghost types. John then goes on the SS Sand, gets all the items he can for rare candies, vitamins, and who knows what else. He destroys Rival 3 on the boat, teaches Cut to Ivysaur, enters Surge's gym, and who does he have today? Just a Rattata. Oh man, that's just funny. It'll be nice to see how many times Surge just sucks today. John defeats it and gets a split time of 19:03. Not too bad, but we have more contenders to go over. Tiberius is next. Nothing happens up until Mount Moon. The very first TM, which normally has Water Gun, contains Mega Punch. This lets Charizard have much more coverage and PP to deal with. With Mount Moon behind him, it's on to Misty. She leads with Haunter, but Ember is a simple 3-hit, although it does get off paralysis from Lick. Next up is the Golduck. Golduck does not get a water type move until very late in the game, so it's not worth worrying with Charizard here, especially since Rival 2 through Nugget Bridge is going to be quite easy. However though, the TM for Thunder Wave ended up being Body Slam. This is going to be a very great run, I can just feel it. Skipping all the way to entering Surge's dim, with Dig on the moveset, Emptyberius is prepared for anything, and Surge sends out Starmie. I guess he's Misty today, and Emptyberius gets a split time of 16:35. NBV3 with his Hypno run is back again. Nothing happens in Mount Moon or Route 3, and all the way at Misty, her Vulpix and Metapod were quite devastatedly destroyed, along with Rival 2's Clefairy, Geodude, Nidoran Male, and Staryu. Nugget Bridge went as smooth as you can expect from Hypno, and now we're all the way at the SSN, where Hypno finds Mega Punch where Body Slam normally was, and he teaches it over Disable. Mega Punch is just extra PP for Hypno. It's not like it was Body Slam, although that would have been great. An electric type. Imagine this thing as Surge's normal ace, especially since Jolteon has Sand Attack. Oh well, Jolteon is defeated and NBV3 gets a Surge split of 18:47. Otto is back again with this Gengar. In Cerulean City, Otto chooses Rival 2 over Misty just to get the extra XP first. At this point though, Gengar is already in the mid to high 20s and is about to hit level 30. That just shows you how great the medium slow growth rate is for a growth rate. That's why a lot of us as kids would just solo the game with our starters, they just leveled up so quickly. Gengar completely destroys the path from Bill's house all the way through the SSN and into Lieutenant Surge's gym. What can Surge have to stop Gengar? Alakazam is certainly capable, and it almost succeeds, but not today. Gengar gets a Surge split time of 16 minutes and 10 seconds. Red Riosity is also using his own Gengar. Mount Moon is no issue at all for Gengar. At Misty, after he'd finished Rival 2 and Bill first, she starts off with Kingler, which is okay, and then Hypno afterwards is definitely bad. Misty's good AI will use Hypnosis or Confusion. Today though, Gengar lands a Hypnosis after 2 tries and Nightshades the Hypno to death. Surge right afterwards has a much less threatening Psychic type, Slowpoke. So with it dead, Red gets a split time of 16:34. Refined Hornet and his Poliwrath are perfectly suited to take on any obstacle thrown at them, and nothing proves a threat up until Rival 2 after Misty is defeated. Since remember, the Rival has a Zapdos starter. It does have Thundershock and Drill Peck. Body Slam paralyzes it, Drill Peck does not do too much surprisingly, and then Rival 2 is defeated. Nugget Bridge is also finished, and Rival 3 won't be a challenge either, so let's just skip straight to Surge. Surge's Pokemon today is a Ditto. If it lives, it will use Transform and use Poliwrath's own stats and moves against him. Sadly it lives, it transforms into Poliwrath, but fortunately, the real Poliwrath wins the speed tie, and the real Poliwrath knocks it out, and Hornet gets a split of 20:59. Now we just got myself and Steve M plays. It'll be nice, Steve can go first, which makes this Gengar run different from the other ones so far. Steve found Submission from the first 3 TMs in the game, 2 of them in Mount Moon, 1 on Route 4, and he taught it for the extra PP for Nugget Bridge, since Lick and Nightshade have low PP and damage output. Then where Thunder Wave was, Steve finds Double Edge, and he gets rid of Submission, one of the worst moves in the game in my opinion. Once Bill is finished and Dig is obtained, Steve also has the early PC Freshwater to give to the Saffron City Guard, and he gets the TM for Psychic very early. And later on, it learns the move Hypnosis over Confuse Ray at level 29. Once he gets Thunderbolt from Surge, this thing will be near unstoppable, although Rival 3 does try his best. His Hypno put Gengar to sleep and almost knocked it out with a Confusion, but he woke up just in time. Phew, that was close. Surge just has a single Coughing, so it's a nice break from how Rival 3 went, and Gengar beats Surge with a split time of 16:42. Finally, let's see my Gengar run. I wasn't as fortunate as Steve to find some extra early TMs to teach for the extra PP, but once I defeated Misty, Rival 2, and rescued Bill, I also had a Soda Pop with this run, so I was also going through Saffron City and getting the TM for Psychic. Man, early Saffron seems quite broken, and it looks like only Austin, Steve, and I had gotten it in one of our random runs. I went to Celadon City, did some buying and selling at the department store, and then I went into the grass to search for a cut user. I do eventually find one, which is a humble Charmander, and then I head back to Vermilion City, defeat Rival 3, and take out Surge's lone Graveler. and then it blows itself up, and I get a split time of 18:15. This time isn't as good as the others, but that's because finding a cut user was not that easy for me. Now let's take a look at all of our early game splits. Austin is in the lead with a sub 14 Surge, followed by Ike, Otto, Red Riosity, MTBerius, Steve M Plays, myself, NBV3, John Calibro, and Refined Hornet. Even though my time wasn't as good, I do have Celadon open to me, and I can skip Rock Tunnel, and for that reason, plus this being my video, I'll remain in the race, and I'm afraid I'll have to boot NBV3, John Calibro, and Refined Hornet. Thank you all for participating in this race. I'm glad you made it this far. Now that we're down to just 7 contenders, our next split will be obtaining the Flute, and after that, we won't boot anybody else until the 7th gym leader is defeated. So let's get on with it, shall we? Back to Austin, our first place lead right now. Since he doesn't need to go through Rock Tunnel, he already gets a 3-minute lead compared to those who need to go through there. The next thing he does is bike down to Vermilion City, defeats Surge's B-Drill with Confusion, and then he bikes his way up to Celadon City. While here, he does go into the Celadon department store. Besides repels and potions, all of our contenders will buy a Pokédoll to skip the Marowak later. They can buy a second one if they want to get the TM for Mimic. He also skips buying a drink, and then he buys some Carbos for vitamins. Next up, he heads on over to Lavender Town to do the Pokemon Tower to get the Flute. First up is Rival 4. He leads off with Lickitung, followed by Pidgeot, Spearow, Staryu, and Electabuzz. Things are starting to get tougher, but once he gets to Rival 5, with everything being over level 30 and fully evolved, things may get really hard. That's why I made Flute a split. It's the last easy task to do before all of the hard boss fights like Erica, Koga, Sabrina, Rival 5, and Blaine open up. Austin finishes off the tower, the dead Marowak is a Golbat, and after using the Pokédoll, Jesse and James are defeated, and Austin gets the Flute with a split time of 19 minutes and 8 seconds. Man, I feel like unless you skip Rock Tunnel, you just can't beat that. But we'll see. Surprising things can happen in life. Ike the Killer is next. Can we count on him to challenge Austin's superiority right now? Since Ike doesn't have the PC Freshwater, he'll have to go through Rock Tunnel like 95% of the runs today. But for Victory Bell, this shouldn't be a problem at all. Once Rock Tunnel is gone through and arrives at Celadon City, he doesn't go shopping yet, and he fights Erica. She leads off with Golem and ends with a Poliwrath and Kabutops. So yeah, just a complete Razor Leaf sweep. That is incredible. Also to note, some of our racers will do Erica in the next split of the game, the Boss Rush, and not during the Flute split. But that really shouldn't matter too much. Rival 4 didn't matter too much either. The Pokédoll appeases the dead Snorlax, and Ike gets the Flute with a split time of 22:24. Few minutes behind Austin, but that's from Rock Tunnel. But I'm sure things will still remain competitive. Let's look at MTBerius. It's Rock Tunnel for him as well, but with great moves like Body Slam, Ember, and Dig, he's got at least neutral coverage for everything in the game. Once Rock Tunnel is finished, along with the shopping at Celadon City, he makes an interesting decision and teaches Fly to Charizard. It's nice not having to worry about a Fly user though, so that's good. Plus, having Fly is a great move for a lot of flying types, although the 90% accuracy is quite bad with the low 75 power. With Rival 4 destroyed and melted in flames, the Pokédoll is given to the dead Mewtwo. Man, Team Rocket took revenge on their own creation. And MTBerius gets the Flute with a split time of 24:22. Uh-oh, this isn't looking too good for MTBerius. I want Charizard to stay in the race. The field has just been dominated by Psychic and Ghost types. I want some variety here, but we'll see. Next up is Otto. His Gengar run is different from Steve and I's as he has to go through Rock Tunnel. But as stated, this is training that is skipped if you get the early Saffron City. But the training may still be useful, especially for Gengar who needs to stay ahead of the field. With Rock Tunnel and Celadon City completed, Otto goes into Saffron City to get Psychic before taking on Erica, who proves to be no problem for Otto, as well as Rival 4. The Ghost is a Pikachu, so sad, and Otto gets the Flute with a split of 23:59. Red Riosity is the last contender still in this race to cover before Steve and I. Red Riosity is doing the same steps as Otto's Gengar, by going through Rock Tunnel and arriving at Celadon City. Red may lose time here to Otto since he's still looking for a Fly user in the grass on Route 10, but fortunately the Cave and Rock Tunnel had a Charizard, so that takes care of that problem. Rival 4 seems to be no problem for anyone in this video today, at least the ones who are contending for first place. The Ghost is an Ekans, and he gets the Flute with a split time of 24-13. Now for Steve and I. Steve M Plays digs back to Cerulean City, gets the bike to go through Cycling Road later, goes through Saffron City into Celadon to do some shopping. The girl on the second floor keeps blocking the way as he waited for her to move. She and that one guy in the grass on Route 1 are some of the most annoying NPCs in the game. They are really irritating when they block your path. Steve finishes up shopping, he gets Fly, defeats Erica in a snap, defeats Rival 4, appeases the Ghost Ratini, and then he gets the Flute with a split time of 22 minutes flat. Still slower than Austin. This makes me really concerned if Gengar really isn't the best for random yellow, but this is still too early to tell. Finally, we're at my Gengar run. I dig back to Celadon City, get the HM for Fly, and then go take on Erica like Steve did. Then I fly back to Cerulean, get the bike, and then bike on over to Lavender Town, where I defeat Rival 4, bow down to the deceased Tentacruel from that one episode in the anime, because I realized I completely forgot to get the Pokédoll from the department store. Okay, that is embarrassing. Once I get back, I'm able to get my Flute split of 22-52. Okay, here are our Flute splits before we move on to gym leaders. Austin is in the lead, and Steve M Plays is now in second place, with Ike ahead of me while I'm in fourth place. And then behind me is Otto, Red Riosity, and MT Birius. Unfortunately, since I need to reduce the playing field down to 5 racers for the next section of the game, this is the end of Red Riosity and MT Birius. Thank you both for participating in this race. It was nice, MT Birius, to see a non-psychic or non-poison type make it this far. I'm proud. Everyone check out his channel in the description if you haven't. Now it's just Austin, Steve M Plays, Ike, myself, and Otto. And then after we defeat the 7th gym leader, we will reduce it down to 4 players, and for the Elite 4, just 3 players. I'm excited to see how long Austin can hold his lead, or if Steve can pull ahead, or if Ike has a trick up his sleeve, or if I rigged the whole race. Anyway, let's move on to the next section, where we can defeat all the major trainers up to including Erica if they hadn't, and then Koga, Rival 5, Sabrina, and Blaine. Let's do this. Austin, after getting the Flute, goes on to Erica. I won't cover her team anymore, she is never hard. Although today though, for Austin, she does have a Ditto, Venomoth, and a Weezing. I'll just go over the other hard gym leaders plus Rival 5. Which of them will Austin do next? Well, after going down through Cycling Road in the Safari Zone, getting all the necessary stuff to progress the story, the first major opponent on the chopping block is Rival 5. This is the best choice in my opinion. If you remember my Poliwrath run from the start of the video, Rival 5 has the lowest levels among people like Koga and Blaine. Plus you need to beat Rival 5 to get to Sabrina. So after doing some optional Sylph training which give decent XP yields, he goes on to Rival 5. He starts off with Venusaur, which is a 2-shot with Psychic while delivering a Vine Whip. Next up is Electabuzz. This isn't the starter Electabuzz. The rival always sends out the starter last in Gen 1. Then Sandslash, Seaking, and then the actual starter Electabuzz come up, and Hypno wins on the first try. Jesse and James on top of Sylph are only annoying at best, so this will be the last time I discuss them. I will discuss Giovanni afterwards only if he proves to be hard for anyone. Today though, he starts off with Cloyster, spams Clamp, and Austin moves on with low HP. Then on the Tauros, it outspeeds and goes for Tackle, putting Hypno in red bar. Then Giovanni does the trademarked Guard Spec, and Tauros goes down. The final Pokemon fortunately is weak to Psychic, so it goes down on the first try. Now with Silphco cleared out, Austin can either do Koga or Sabrina, and he chooses Fuchsia City. Koga leads off with a level 44 Jinx. One headbutt does half to it, but sadly an Ice Punch crits and leaves it at 18 HP. Austin somehow makes it to the Ace Blastoise just to get his first reset in the whole run over Water Gun. On the next try though, after having more HP to work with, Blastoise proves to be not too bad, especially after Psychic delivers a special drop. Austin then goes on a brief swim to Cinnabar, gets the secret key in the mansion, and goes straight to Blaine. Blaine starts off with a Gyarados, which is a very threatening foe, but luckily it doesn't become too big of a pain. Venusaur afterwards is easy, but the Magneton tries its best to be a nuance. but the Volcano badge is now under his belt. Next up is Sabrina. Austin does get the TM for Mimic while in Saffron, does the optional training at the fighting dojo, and now's the time for the gym leader herself. She leads with a level 50 muck followed by a Jolteon. It just spams Agility and Pin Missile for massive damage, and despite being paralyzed, Austin somehow pulls off a first try victory, and he gets his 7th badge with a split time of 32 minutes and 19 seconds. That is incredible. Come on, Ike, show Austin who's boss. Ike does some shopping in Lavender Town to buy some repels and potions, and the first thing he does after getting the flute is go into Saffron City. He heals at the center to set it as a dig point, and then he flies to Celadon City to bike down to Fuchsia. And while there, before doing the Safari Zone, he does optional training in Koga's gym, and then he takes on the man himself. Koga leads off with Venusaur. With Sleep Powder and Swords Dance, even a weak move like Acid can do so much damage, and Koga gets quickly devastated. With Koga down, Ike goes into the Safari Zone, gets the important items including Gold Teeth and Surf, so he can dig back out into Saffron and immediately do Sylph. That is some great routing. I should really keep a note of that for the future. Thanks, Ike. In Silphco, he checks the items for any rare candies or elixirs or stuff like that. Now it's time for Rival 5. He leads off with Blastoise, perfect opportunity for Swords Dance setup, and once that's done, Acid Sweep for the win. Marowak does survive because it resists poison, so Razor Leaf would have been the better play, but a win's still a win. So let's continue on to Sabrina. She starts off with Alakazam, almost vanilla, still terrifying. Once Ike gets his setup done, Acid just wrecks her whole team. Unlike Austin though, we don't split here. Ike's 7th gym leader is Blaine. So let's surf down to Cinnabar and challenge the Fire Master. He leads off with Raichu, the fire type, and once it's put to sleep, you know the drill, Ike only sets up 2 Swords Dances because the Raichu woke up early. But plus 2 Swords Dances ended up being okay anyway, and Ike gets a time of 32:37. Darn, despite Rock Tunnel, he's only 18 seconds behind Austin. That is impressive. Still 0 resets. Can Ike win this race? Don't answer it yet. Otto, Steve, and I are still in this. Otto will go over next. He is using Gengar. After obtaining the flute, he goes down through Cycling Road and does the Safari Zone errands. The first stop is Koga, surprisingly, instead of Rival 5. That's an interesting choice. Let's see if it works. Koga leads off with Jinx. 3 Thunderbolts knocks it out. Then the Cloyster and Nidoking go down very quickly, although he did put Raichu to sleep to prevent Thunder Wave. That was definitely a risky move he did doing Koga first, and it seems to have paid off. Nice. Rival 5 is next. Alakazam is not a good lead, but luckily Thunderbolt paralyzed the Alakazam and he could move on. But unfortunately, he has a second Alakazam, so this fight is going to need a bit of Hypnosis luck, which he does get on the second attempt. I guess his move to do Koga first ended up being worth it. That is just an awful Rival 5 team. Now he's just got Sabrina and Blaine left. He chooses to go to the mansion first, gets the key, then digs back to Saffron City, completely destroys Sabrina, even though she has a Gyarados with Hydro Pump, but Thunderbolt was no issue for her. Blaine, though, leads with Wigglytuff, which is a very easy Pokemon to take down, followed by a Thunderbolt to Dewgong, and on Rhydon, he puts it to sleep. Even though Rhydon couldn't even hit Gengar, which I find a bit funny, and once Rhydon's down, Otto gets his 7th badge with a time of 32:33. Now for Steve M plays. I'll just skip the part where I go over the fact that he went to Cycling Road and did Safari Zone errands of getting Gold Teeth and Surf. Let's just go straight to Koga. See if early Koga before Rival 5 hurts Steve at all too. He leads with Nidoqueen, which can't hit Gengar. Then it is Rapidash, Vileplume, and another Nidoqueen. That is just incredible luck. That was 100% worth it. Half of Gengar's strength is just not taking damage in the first place. Next up is Rival 5 and Sylph. He leads off with Slowbro, then Weezing and Tangela, who paralyzes Steve, then Beedrill, and then Persian, who still cannot hit a ghost type. So even though paralysis makes you not move 25% of the time, Gengar just has no problems at all here. And then when that's done, Sabrina leads off with Exeggutor. It misses Hypnosis, although it does take a while to die, as does Snorlax. And then her Ace Electrode couldn't do anything to harm the Gengar. Man, Steve is just crushing it right now. Let's go back to Blaine now. Blaine leads off with a Blastoise, which goes down to Thunderbolt, Gengar to Psychic, Poliwrath to Psychic, and then Steve gets his 7th badge with an incredible split time of 30 minutes and 3 seconds. Steve has now conquered the lead, but I'm not out of it yet. I'll just quickly sum this up. I do the necessary Cycling Road and Safari Zone stuff, I fly to Saffron City, do the Fighting Dojo training, and go into Silphco to fight Rival 5. He leads with Pinsir, and then the Dragonite luckily does not Thunder Wave me, and the rest of his team does no harm after that. But I did do a lot of training, plus we're using a Gengar. Like, what did you expect? You want to know something you weren't expecting? Sabrina's Gengar lead knocked out my Gengar for a reset. Plus on the second attempt, her Ace Lapras knocks out my Gengar for a second loss. I do win on the 3rd try though, but I think those losses on Sabrina probably kicked me out of the competition. We'll see. Koga will definitely be easier than Sabrina though, not only for the lower levels, but it's all Pokemon weak to Thunderbolt or Psychic. Blaine is next. He leads off with Poliwrath, which is weak to Psychic, and then Marowak completely destroys Gengar. I come back at level 50 after fighting some of Blaine's trainers to get over a damage rounding threshold, and then upon returning, Marowak just uses a useless focus energy. So honestly, I should have just tried the fight again. This run did not go well for me. Plus he has random AI. Oh well, I finish off Blaine with a time of 32 minutes and 51 seconds. All because of how bad Sabrina and Blaine were, I'm in last place now of the remaining contendants, so in my own video, I have to boot myself from this race. This is unfortunate. This doesn't mean my time is not incredible though. At the end of this video, we'll go over the whole entire leaderboard and overall place positions. Who knows, someone who may have gotten booted earlier may have 7th place. Well, we'll talk about the final gym leader Giovanni and Rival 6, and then we'll call our splits into consideration at the league building at the Indigo Plateau. So right now, it's just Steve M plays, Austin, Ike, and Otto remaining in this race. After digging out of Sabrina's gym, Austin gets the Max Elixir in Giovanni's gym, defeats the mandatory trainers only, and goes to fight Giovanni. He leads with a level 50 Seadra, then a Venusaur, Muck, Vileplume, and Kabutops. And despite being paralyzed and in yellow health, Austin still wins. Now for Rival 6, he leads off with Nidoking, which is a one-shot, as is the Marowak, Beedrill, Kingler, and Flareon. The Flareon is a 2-hit though. And then the Electabuzz afterwards is a 2-shot with Psychic. So things are no longer becoming one-shots, but the Hypno is still holding on strong. In Victory Road though, you can pick up items or do last-minute training. Austin doesn't do much of it though. He does one cool trainer on the top floor just to get to the next level before using rare candies. And then Austin leaves Victory Road and enters the Pokemon League building with a time of 36 minutes and 39 seconds. Ike the Killer, who no longer has Austin as his #1 rival but instead Steve M plays, goes through Giovanni's gym trainers, defeat the mandatory ones only, and despite one of them having a Gengar, was actually quite easy for Ike. He does skip the item in this gym though, so -5 merit points for Ike. Anyway, on Giovanni, the lead Doug trio is vanilla, so once Ike is set up on +6, Acid is good enough to sweep. I think Ike would have had a bigger lead if he had found early Body Slam too. Acid is just not a good physical move to sweep with. Rival 6 leads with Arbok. It is put to sleep before Glare can cause paralysis, and with Swords Dance fully set up again, Rival 6 stands no chance and he goes through Victory Road. Like Austin, he tries to fight the Juggler in Victory Road, but sadly his Gengar confuses him, he hits himself with the +6 attack, and he gets his first reset. Oh no, this isn't good at all. So he just moves on from him and gets to the league with a time of 37:06. Dang, I think Ike could have pulled ahead if it weren't for that unfortunate Gengar. Let's just see how Otto and Steve go through this part now. Otto gets to Giovanni's gym, defeats the mandatory trainers only, he skips the Giovanni item so -5 points from him as well, and then on Giovanni, the lead Muck survives a Psychic. Bravo Muck. Snorlax has to be put to sleep across 3 turns because of how specially bulky it is. Poliwrath and Gengar are easy to deal with, and Blastoise gets a crit Hydro Pump on Gengar, but it hangs on and Otto now has all 8 badges. Rival 6 provides no last minute challenges to Otto, unlike how Giovanni tried to. And in Victory Road, he does what I think is a smart move, and he skips all of the trainers in here entirely, and enters the Pokemon League with a time of 36:17. Finally, we got Steve M Plays. In Giovanni's gym, the mandatory trainers only are dealt with. You know, I figured this was expected, but I should still say it. Since Steve didn't get the item in Giovanni's gym, minus 20 million points from Gryffindor. I mean Steve. Giovanni leads with Wigglytuff, who disables Thunderbolt, but luckily it undisables quite quickly, just in time for his Blastoise coming up. Giovanni has his Ace Onix that has lower attack than Alakazam and proves not to be a problem. Rival 6 leads with Dewgong, Thunderbolt takes care of it, Persian and Poliwrath aren't an issue. On Jinx, it does land an Ice Punch due to the Hypnosis miss. Luckily, it doesn't freeze. That would be so unlucky. And he moves on from the fight, travels through Victory Road, and he enters the Pokemon League with a split time of 33 minutes and 56 seconds. Okay guys, Steve is still keeping up a massive lead. Unless something very bad happens in the league, Steve M Plays is prone to winning this race. Since Ike had a very bad Victory Road, unfortunately I'll need to cut him from the video. Great job Ike for making it this far. It's down to just Steve M Plays, followed by Austin, the runner-up, and Otto shortly behind. Now it's time for the final 5 trainers. No, I won't do it only once per video. Sorry. Starting off with Austin, Lorelei leads off with Hypno. Kind of ironic actually. Followed that up is Jolteon. Pin Missile really hurts. Vaporeon is easy but still a 2-hit. Venusaur is a 1-shot. And Scyther gets Hypno down to red health, but Lorelei was still a first try. Bruno of the Elite Four leads off with Starmie. Pokemon like this and Exeggutor are why Headbutt are still important on the moveset, although Exeggutor gets Austin way too low, and that is the first reset in the league. On the next attempt, Bruno goes down, but that reset pretty much ruins any chance of Austin making a comeback. Maybe Otto can become a runner-up. Agatha leads off with Rhydon. It does live a Psychic, and then she switches into a different Pokemon. The whole battle is just a switching game for her. She thinks it's so funny, but it's just a time waste at best. Lance then leads off with Hitmonchan. Very weak to special moves, especially Psychic. Lickitung, Golbat, Fearow, and Tentacruel all provided no challenge, so it's time now to face the champion. The champion leads with Cloyster. It lives a Psychic and it misses Supersonic, thankfully. Nidoking is a 1-shot. Dugtrio lives. Poliwrath is a 1-shot. P-Word is a 2-shot. And Electabuzz is a 2-shot with Psychic as well. And Austin clocks in with a time of 40 minutes and 22 seconds, with 2 resets at level 62, with a game time of 2 hours, 35 minutes, and 31 seconds. Otto is next to face the league. Lorelei leads off with Venomoth, the Ice Flying type, credit to Scott for that. Lorelei tries to be annoying with both a Dragonite and a Hypno. He could have either been paralyzed or take massive damage from Psychic on Hypno. Bruno leads off with Snorlax. With tanky HP and special, it doesn't have a move to hit Otto though. Bruno leads with Onix with tanky special and high HP. It doesn't have a move to hit Otto though, but Alakazam certainly does, which causes Otto's first reset in the league. On the second try, Dewgong gets put in red health, and then the final Ace Seaking lives in low red bar, but Bruno uses an X defend instead of attacking so Otto can move on. Agatha's lead with Vaporeon followed by Dugtrio, which doesn't cause any trouble, Starmie and Farfetch plus Machamp. The whole fight was just a breeze for Otto. I never expected Machamp to cause issues anyway. Lance leads with Venomoth like Lorelei did, the Dragon Flying type. Beedrill is a 2-shot with Thunderbolt, Vileplume with Psychic, but then on Poliwrath it puts Gengar to sleep, but then Gengar wakes up just in time to take it and Clefable out. That was definitely a close one. Now for the champion. He leads with Poliwrath. Uh-oh. Thunderbolt barely knocks it out, but it misses Hypnosis, but that doesn't matter since the only other hard Pokemon is Marowak, which uses Bone Meringue, and Gengar lives at 15 HP to spare. The Marowak goes down, and it finally is the Golduck. It does have Confusion, which it will use, and it does, so that's another reset for Otto. This is not good at all. On the next attempt, Otto gets back to the Golduck at 33 HP, he puts it to sleep, and 2 Thunderbolts do the job. Otto clocks in his time with a final run time of 40 minutes and 27 seconds, with 3 resets at level 57, with a game time of 2 hours, 34 minutes, and 37 seconds. Now let's just see how much Steve wins this by. Lorelei starts off the final Elite Four battle montage with Arcanine. 2 Psychics take it out, Psychic does not KO the Victory Bell, it puts Gengar to sleep, and Gengar wakes up right away. There is a second Victory Bell which gets destroyed by a crit. After that though, there were no other close calls. Bruno has his Machamp at the start instead. Not like it matters though. Starmie and Slowbro are both weak to Thunderbolt, Venusaur is weak to Psychic, and Clefable goes down to 3 Thunderbolts due to Clefable's pretty decent special. Agatha leads off with Dugtrio, 1 crit Psychic takes it out, and then the Victory Bell right afterwards too. Wigglytuff also got a crit, but it lived, so it didn't even matter. And then the rest of her is of no issue. Now for Lance. Machamp is in the lead like with Bruno, and then after that there's another Wigglytuff to try and tank Psychic, which does happen. But with that move gone, the Ace Parasect goes down to 3 Nightshades, and since it is not weak to any of Gengar's moves. Finally is the champion. He leads with Venusaur. Psychic does not KO. Steve is put to sleep. He doesn't wake up in time, and he gets his first reset in the whole run. He almost had a whole run without a reset. So sad to see their resetless run does not materialize. Dang. Then on the second to last Pokemon Raichu, it paralyzes Gengar, but that doesn't matter. You know why? Persian knows no moves that can defeat Gengar. So slowly but steadily, Gengar knocks out Persian, and Steve M Plays clocks in first place with a split time of 37 minutes and 32 seconds, with 1 single reset at level 55, with a game time of 2 hours, 26 minutes, and 12 seconds. Steve M Plays gets first place overall in this randomizer, with Austin as the runner-up and Otto in third place. However though, this was just how I covered the video. These aren't the actual placements. I'll show off the leaderboard in its entirety, but before I do, I'll go over the top 10 fastest times submitted to me. Number 10, Red Riosity with Victory Bell with a time of 43 minutes and 9 seconds. Number 9, Steve M Plays Gengar, 42 minutes 19 seconds. Number 8, Red Riosity Hypno, 42 minutes and 18 seconds. Number 7, Steve M Plays Nidoqueen, 41 minutes and 29 seconds. Number 6, Red Riosity Gengar, 41 minutes and 6 seconds. Number 5, Ike the Killer, Victory Bell, 40 minutes and 29 seconds. Number 4, Otto, Gengar, 40 minutes and 27 seconds. Number 3, Austin, Hypno, 40 minutes and 22 seconds. Number 2, Speedrunner 0218, Gengar, 39:47. Number 1, Steve M Plays Gengar, 37:32. Due to how I decided to boot people from the video, it makes the impression that some people did bad, but that's not true at all. You can definitely see how the top 10 is all poison and psychic types. They are just such great Gen 1 types, Psychic for offensive and then Poison for defensive purposes, that and combined with Ghost type. Here's the leaderboard in its entirety if you want to zoom in and take a look at things, or just pause the video to see how everyone's run went. However, we still have one more run to go over, Mystic Hobo's special run. He did a run with Weedle only, not being allowed to evolve. I won't show the whole run as it's around 9 hours total, I'll just show the final gym leader fights up until the run was impossible. Weedle ended up taking out Brock 57 minutes into the run at level 24, with Brock only having a P-word and a Venonat. Those aren't too bad of Pokemon to use, but this will only get harder. Half the leaderboard already beat the game by now. At 1 hour and 29 minutes into the run, Misty is challenged. She leads with Tauros and ends with Primeape. They were both quite easy for Weedle, although Weedle at this point is level 34. At 2 hours and 10 minutes into the run, Surge and his single Weedle were taken down. Also, the reset counter does reset for some reason 21 resets in, so just add 21 to whatever number you see from here on out. The real timer broke at some point during the run, so we'll just say that 38 resets on the reset counter, plus the 21 from earlier, so 49 resets in. Erica is finally challenged. She leads with Pidgeot, then Marowak, and Primeape. Weedle is using Struggle Strats at this point, since it'll do more damage than Poison Sting. Things are close, and while Weedle eventually wins, this run is getting more and more painful to watch. 49 plus 21 resets into the run, Koga is now challenged. Weedle is now level 78 after doing almost every trainer in the game. Vaporeon is in the lead. Poison Sting still has some PP usage, so once Poison Sting is used up, and then his ace is Rhydon. Thankfully it doesn't have any rock type moves, so Koga is a first try victory, but just barely. 64 plus 21 resets in. Sabrina leads off with Arbok at level 50 while Weedle is level 87. Weedle is sticking to the one and only struggle strat. Tangela after Arbok goes down quite easily, and then Dodrio fortunately never uses Drill Peck, so that is an easy first try victory. Now for Blaine. 200 plus 21 resets in the run. Blaine leads off with Poliwrath, and Weedle is now level 100. There is no further training that Weedle can do to win at this point. Spam Poison Sting for the win. The Struggle strat can't work since in this game Struggle does normal type damage, so 4 times resisted Poison Sting is the only way forward since Blaine has a Gengar. I wonder when this run will end up being impossible. Finally is Giovanni. 203 plus 21 resets in. Venusaur is the lead. Weedle just has a few Poison Stings left, so when they run out, Weedle can get straight to Struggle spamming. And by the time Mystic Hobo gets to the final Pokemon, Dragonite, after the last struggle, Dragonite goes down and Weedle lives at 44 HP to spare. Sadly, this is where it has to come to an end. Rival 6 was just unwinnable for Mystic Hobo, so this is where the attempt is over. But I'm surprised he even did this in the first place. Congratulations, Mystic Hobo, you're the real winner today to all of us. Now for our final stat, what are the most common HM users caught through the randomizers? For cut users, with both of them being used 4 times, we have Krabby and Kingler. For fly, being used 9 times total, we got Farfetch'd. For surf, at 6 HM users is Poliwrath. For strength, there are 5 uses of Kingler being the strength user. Finally, for dig, the most common dig user at 3 is a tie between Charmeleon and Charizard. Krabby and Kingler are great HM users. They get everything but fly for an HM. No dig, obviously. I really hope y'all enjoy this video. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. Check out everyone's social media in the description. I only put it in there if they provided it to me. This was a fun race to host, but not to watch all the runs, do all the notes, editing, and so much more, including this voiceover. I am never doing one of these again. I can honestly see why Scott decided to retire from those community races, especially with delaying Parasect for a year. I can definitely understand now why he did. I can't wait to go back to my normal solo runs very soon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.